This is the story of Aminna, a woman from Enugu, and her husband Ibuka, a man whose gentle heart was tested by love, greed, and the weight of one woman's stingy ways. For all you young couples out there, remember this: love alone is not enough. Before you say "I do," learn who you're truly marrying. Because sometimes, what glitters at first might just be greed hiding behind a smile. Welcome to Echoes from the Baobab Tree, where the timeless spirit of Africa comes alive through the power of storytelling, tales of love, betrayal, and redemption that echo through generations. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, kindly do so now, and don't forget to like, share, and join our growing family of story lovers. Now, let's continue the story. You won't believe what happened at Aminna's wedding. The hall was filled with music, laughter, and the sweet smell of jollof rice and fried meat. Guests came from all over Enugu and beyond, friends, family, even people who didn't know her, just to eat wedding food. But when the food was finally served, something shocking happened. Right before everyone's eyes, Aminna, the bride herself, sat down with a big tray of food meant for the guests and started eating. Plate after plate, she cleared everything. At first, people thought it was a joke. The MC laughed nervously. "Ah, Madam Bride, no small chopo." But Aminna didn't stop. She licked the plate clean, scooped more from the cooler, and said with a serious face, "Nobody should waste my money food. I paid for this rice with my sweat." Gasps filled the air. Her new husband, Ibuka, stood frozen, embarrassed. The guests murmured, hungry and stunned. Her uncles, who had been eyeing the chicken, exchanged glances. "This girl don't disgrace us," one hissed. The hall went silent as Aminna picked the last piece of meat and smiled proudly, her white lace dress now stained with oil. And then, she turned to the guest and said something that made everyone's jaw drop. But before we get there, let's go back to how it all began. Aminna was born in 1987 in Enugu, Nigeria, a bright, bustling city full of people who loved food, laughter, and community. But Aminna was different. From the time she was little, people noticed she had a strange relationship with money. At age 6, when her classmates bought biscuits at break time, Aminna kept her coins safely tied in her wrapper. When others shared snacks, she hid hers behind her school bag. Her mother used to say, "Aminna, money is meant to be used, not buried." But Aminna only smiled and replied, "Mama, if I spend it, it will finish. If I keep it, it will grow wings and fly to me again." The nickname Loka Gum, which means gum hand, started in secondary school. Her friends said her hands were like glue. Once money entered, it never came out. She'd collect birthday gifts but never buy gifts for anyone. Even when her father, Chief Yusuf, a successful businessman, gave her allowance, she would hide it inside old shoes, plastic bottles, and sometimes even under the tiles of their living room. By the time she was 20, Aminna had saved more money than most people twice her age. But she was also the loneliest girl in her street. Nobody wanted to visit her because she never offered anything: no food, no drinks, not even water. Things changed the year 2014 when her cousin, Ioma, came to live with her. Ioma was the opposite: bubbly, kind, and a little mischievous. She believed life was too short to count every naira. When she moved in, she thought she could change Aminna. "Aminna," she said one morning as they ate breakfast, "you should learn to enjoy life. What's the use of having money if you live like a monk?" Aminna frowned, carefully slicing one piece of bread into 4. "Enjoyment is for foolish people who want to die broke. I'm saving for my future." But Ioma wasn't giving up easily. After months of trying to convince Aminna to loosen up, she decided to play a trick. She pretended to be sick, lying on the bed moaning and crying, hoping Aminna would spend money to buy her medicine. "Oh, my stomach," she groaned. "I need to go to the hospital." Aminna calmly looked at her and said, "Don't worry. Rest will cure you." The body heals itself. Then she turned off the fan to save electricity. When that didn't work, Ioma faked an engagement. She told Aminna that her fiancé from Lagos was coming to visit and that she needed a little cash to buy food and drinks. Aminna just smiled and said, "If your husband-to-be truly loves you, he should come with his own food." The final straw came one afternoon in July 2015. Ioma sneaked into Aminna's room, searching for where she kept her money. She had seen her burying something behind the house weeks before. Just as she lifted a floor tile, Aminna appeared at the door with a broom in hand. "What are you doing there?" Aminna's voice was cold. I was just cleaning," Ioma stammered. Aminna marched closer, her eyes blazing. "Cleaning? Under my floor?" When she saw a few crumpled notes sticking out of Ioma's pocket, her rage exploded. "Thief!" she shouted, dragging her cousin by the arm and throwing her out of the house, suitcase and all. The neighbors gathered, whispering as Ioma cried, "I only wanted to teach you to share." But Aminna didn't care. "Nobody touches my money," she said proudly, slamming the gate. From that day, she swore never to trust anyone again. She ate alone, walked alone, and even spoke to herself when she counted her savings at night. Yet life has a funny way of testing people. One Sunday afternoon, as she walked back from church, she met Ibuka, a tall, gentle man with kind eyes and a soft voice. He was a carpenter from Nsukka, hardworking and humble. He helped her carry her basket of vegetables that had fallen in the mud. "Thank you," she said shyly. "You're welcome," he smiled. "But next time, don't carry so much by yourself." That small kindness was the beginning of a love story no one saw coming. For the first time in her life, Aminna found someone who didn't care about her money. Ibuka loved her for who she was, or so it seemed. She started to soften, just a little. She laughed more. She even cooked for him once, a simple plate of rice, though she measured every grain. Months passed, and in March 2017, they got engaged. Everyone in Enugu talked about it. Can you imagine? Okagom is getting married. The wedding date was set for May 20, 2017. The church was decorated, guests filled the hall, and the smell of delicious food floated in the air. But deep down, Aminna was already planning how to protect her investment. And that was how the shocking event of that day began, the day Aminna, the stingy woman of Enugu, finished all her wedding food. But what she said afterward changed everything. The hall went completely silent after Aminna finished eating the last grain of rice. Oil glistened on her chin, and pieces of fried meat lay scattered around her plate like fallen soldiers. Guests stared at her in disbelief. Some covered their mouths, others whispered to one another. Then, with a proud smile, Aminna wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, stood up, and said loudly, "Let no one waste food that I paid for. If I see anyone packing takeaway, I'll call the police." Her voice echoed through the hall. Children froze mid-bite. The MC dropped his microphone. Even the band stopped playing. Her husband, Ibuka, sat beside her, his face buried in his hands. A young bridesmaid whispered, "Is she okay?" An older aunt hissed, "That girl has disgraced her husband's family." Imagine a bride fighting guests over rice. But Aminna didn't care. She looked around proudly, as though she had achieved something noble. "People think I'm foolish because I don't spend anyhow," she said. "But let me tell you all, money doesn't fall from trees. Every plate of food here cost me my sweat." And then she said it, the words that would haunt her for years. "If you didn't contribute to this wedding, you don't deserve to eat from it." The crowd gasped. Her uncle, Chief Uchenna, who had been halfway through a bottle of malt, slammed it down. "Aminna, you mean your own family shouldn't eat your wedding food?" She turned to him sharply. "Uncle, did you give me 1 naira for this wedding? Did you buy 1 bag of rice?" The hall erupted. Ibuka's mother stood up, her head tight shaking as she shouted, "This is shame. Total shame." That moment marked the end of the celebration. Guests began leaving, murmuring curses under their breath. The DJ quietly packed his speakers. Ibuka tried to calm his bride, but Aminna was unmoved. She wrapped the remaining pieces of meat in nylon and placed them in a handbag. "We can eat this later," she whispered. That night, when they got home, the air was heavy with silence. Ibuka sat on the couch, staring at nothing. "Aminna," he finally said, "you embarrassed me in front of everyone." My mother cried. My friends couldn't even eat. She frowned, setting down her handbag. "At least we didn't waste food. That's all that matters." Ibuka shook his head slowly. "That's not marriage. That's madness." But Aminna didn't see it that way. In her mind, she had done the right thing. "They only came for free food, not for our happiness," she said, turning off the light to save electricity. Over the next few days, her stinginess grew worse. She rationed everything: food, water, even air freshener. Ibuka soon realized that living with her was like living inside a prison where money was the warden. Toothpaste. Measured. Cooking oil. Counted by drops. Flushes. Only once a day. One evening, Ibuka returned from work sweaty and hungry. "Aminna, I'm starving," he said. She looked up from counting her envelopes of cash. "There's food on the stove." When he lifted the pot, he found only 1 cup of rice and a small fish head. "This can't feed both of us," he said, his voice breaking. "Who said it's for both of us?" she replied calmly. "You already ate bread in the morning." Ibuka stared at her in disbelief. The woman he had fallen in love with was gone. In her place stood someone ruled by fear: fear of losing money, fear of generosity, fear of life itself. One day, Ibuka's mother came to visit unexpectedly. "My son," she said, "I came to greet your wife." Aminna smiled politely, but her mind was racing. A visitor meant extra expenses, extra food, extra water, extra electricity. She cooked just 1 small pot of soup, enough for 2 people. When her mother-in-law asked for more, Aminna said sweetly, "Oh mama, doctor warned us not to eat too much oil. It's for our health." After the visit, Ibuka confronted her again. "Aminna, you are turning love into suffering. I can't keep living like this." She folded her arms. "So you want me to waste my hard-earned money because your mother likes eating?" That night, Ibuka didn't sleep beside her. He moved to the couch, staring at the ceiling, wondering how love could turn into regret so fast. Days passed, then weeks. Their home became cold, quiet, and joyless. Even the neighbors began to notice. Children who once greeted her now avoided her. People whispered, "That's the woman who finished her wedding food." Then one rainy night in August 2017, something strange happened. Aminna had a nightmare so vivid that she woke up screaming. In her dream, she was back in her father's old house in Enugu. She saw termites crawling everywhere, on the walls, the doors, even on the ground. She followed them and discovered they were eating something inside the floor. She knelt and dug with her hands, her heart racing, until she saw what they were devouring. It was her money. Piles and piles of naira notes, all shredded into dust. "No! My money," she screamed in her dream, trying to scoop up the pieces. But the wind blew harder, scattering everything into the sky. Then she heard laughter, her cousin Ioma's laughter. And beside her, Ibuka stood holding another woman's hand. "Meet my new wife," he said. "She's generous. She knows love." Aminna dropped to her knees, weeping. "Please, don't leave me. I'll change." Then lightning struck, and she woke up, sweaty, trembling, her heart beating fast. She sat up, panting. The house was dark. Ibuka's side of the bed was empty. At first, she thought he was asleep on the couch again. But when she walked into the living room, his clothes were gone. A terrible fear gripped her chest. Her nightmare suddenly felt too real. She ran outside, shouting his name, her voice echoing through the silent street. There was no answer. And just as she turned to go back inside, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Aminna froze. Right there, on the gate of her compound, hung a small folded note pinned with a rusty nail. Her trembling hands reached for it. The paper was damp from the rain, and when she opened it, the words were short but sharp, like a knife straight to her heart. I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of counting toothpaste and water. I need peace. Don't look for me. Ibuka. Her knees gave way. The note fell to the wet ground as she sank down, clutching her chest. Rainwater mixed with her tears, running down her face. Ibuka, you can't leave me, she whispered, her voice breaking. That night, she sat on the cold floor till morning, replaying every argument, every stingy act, every word she had ever said that might have pushed him away. But when the sun rose, her pride kicked in again. Let him go, she muttered. Men are all the same. He'll come crawling back when he realizes I'm the only one who can manage money. She said that, but deep down, her heart ached. The house felt empty. The silence was heavy, haunting. Days turned into weeks, and Ibuka didn't return. Aminna became restless. She tried to distract herself by cleaning and recounting her money. She dug up the tins and plastic containers she had buried around the house, spreading the money on her bed like trophies. See my sweat, she said aloud, smiling faintly. All of them think I'm foolish. But one day, they'll know. But as the nights grew colder, her confidence faded. She began to hear things, footsteps in the hall, whispers in her dreams. The same nightmare returned again and again, termites eating her money while Ibuka laughed in the distance. Each time she woke up sweating, gasping for air. By mid-September 2017, her once proud heart was now wrapped in fear. She tried calling Ibuka, but his number didn't go through. She even went to his workshop, only to find another carpenter working there. He traveled, the man said. He's gone to his mother's village in Saka. That night, as she lay alone in bed, the thought that Ibuka might never come back hit her like a stone. She turned on her side and wept quietly. By morning, something inside her shifted. She decided to go after him. Maybe if she could show him that she had changed, or at least that she missed him, he would come home. But before traveling, she wanted to check on her money, the one she had buried years ago behind her late father's house in Enugu. Let me be sure it's safe, she said to herself. So I can have peace of mind before going anywhere. She packed a small bag, locked her gate, and boarded a bus to her old family house in Ogui, Enugu. It was October 4, 2017. The sky was grey, and the air smelled like rain. When she arrived, the place looked abandoned. The once beautiful bungalow now had cracks on the walls and weeds growing through the fence. She pushed open the rusty gate and walked in slowly, her heart pounding. The spot where she had buried her money was behind the mango tree. She remembered digging there one night years ago, sweating and whispering, safe and sound. Now, as she approached the spot, something strange caught her eye. The ground was disturbed, freshly dug up. The soil was uneven, and there were small pieces of torn nylon scattered around. Her heart dropped. No, it can't be, she whispered, falling to her knees. She dug frantically with her bare hands, throwing clumps of dirt behind her, searching for her precious tins and plastic bottles. But all she found were ants and bits of decayed paper. My money, she screamed. Who did this? Her voice echoed through the empty compound. The neighbors peeked through their windows, whispering. To them, Aminna looked like a madwoman, clawing the ground and crying over nothing. She kept digging until her nails broke and her palms bled. When she finally stopped, her breathing was shallow, her body trembling. The truth hit her, her money was gone. All of it. A sound escaped her throat, half scream, half sob. She sat back on the ground, rocking herself like a child. All my sweat, all my years, gone. As the evening sun began to fade, she heard a voice behind her. Soft. Familiar. Aminna. She turned sharply. It was Ioma, her cousin, the same one she had thrown out years ago. Aminna's eyes widened. You? What are you doing here? Ioma smiled faintly, stepping closer. I came to check on the house. I live nearby now. You stole it, didn't you? Aminna shouted, pointing at the dug-up soil. You came back for revenge. You took my money. Ioma raised her hands calmly. Aminna, I didn't touch anything. When I came here last week, the ground was already open. Maybe children found it. Or maybe, she hesitated, then added, maybe God is teaching you something. God? Aminna hissed. Don't preach to me. She stormed past her cousin and ran out of the compound. She didn't stop until she reached the main road, her mind spinning. Everything she had worked for, everything she had gathered, was gone. By the time she returned home that night, she was a shadow of herself. She didn't eat, didn't sleep. The once fierce Okagom now sat silently in the dark, whispering Ibuka's name. The next morning, she decided she couldn't stay silent anymore. She would go to Nsaka and find him, no matter what. She packed her bag, locked her house, and left for the bus park. The journey was long and bumpy. As the bus climbed the hills toward Nsaka, she rehearsed what she would say when she saw him again. Please, Ibuka. Come back. I'll change. I'll cook for you. I'll share everything. Her heart pounded faster as the driver called out, Nsaka. Last bus stop. But when she reached Ibuka's mother's house, something strange awaited her. The compound was decorated with colorful ribbons, music played softly in the background, and people were gathered, laughing and dancing. At first, she smiled, thinking maybe it was a welcome party, or perhaps a birthday celebration. But then she saw him. Ibuka. Dressed in a white kaftan. Smiling. Holding another woman's hand. Aminna froze, her bag slipping from her hand. And when she realized what the celebration was for, her whole world shattered in one instant. For a long moment, Aminna couldn't move. Her legs felt like wood, her mouth dry as dust. The laughter, the music, the colorful balloons, all blurred together like a bad dream she couldn't wake from. There he was, Ibuka. Her husband. The man she had promised forever. Smiling, radiant, and holding another woman's hand. The woman wore a bright blue lace dress, her head tied tall and shining. On her finger sparkled a gold ring. It took only a second for Aminna to understand what was happening. It wasn't a birthday party. It wasn't a family gathering. It was a wedding. Ibuka's wedding. Aminna staggered forward, her voice trembling. Ibuka. People turned. Some gasped, some whispered. Ibuka froze. His smile disappeared, and his new bride looked at Aminna in confusion. She stood there, drenched in sweat and disbelief, her scarf half slipping from her head. Ibuka, it's me. Your wife. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. His wife. Which wife? Someone asked. Ibuka took a deep breath and stepped closer. Aminna, what are you doing here? What am I doing here? She shouted, her voice cracking. What am you doing here, Ibuka? Who is this woman? His new bride frowned. I'm his wife, she said quietly. Aminna laughed bitterly. His wife. No, I am his wife. We married on May 20th last year, remember? In Enugu. I cooked for you, I washed your clothes, her voice broke. I loved you. The guests began whispering louder. Ibuka's mother stepped forward, her face hard. Enough, Aminna. You lost your husband the day you chose money over love. My son has moved on. Leave before you disgrace yourself again. Aminna shook her head violently. Moved on. Just like that. After everything. Her eyes darted between Ibuka and the new woman. So, this is her. The one you dreamed about while I was counting coins. Ibuka sighed deeply. Aminna, please. You made my life unbearable. I begged you to change, but you refused. This woman here, Ngozi, she makes me happy. She gives without fear. I'm sorry, but it's over. Aminna's lips trembled. Over. For the first time in her life, she felt truly poor, not because of money, but because she had lost everything that actually mattered. Tears rolled down her face as she whispered, Ibuka. I was going to change. I came here to tell you that. He looked away. It's too late. The crowd began to mutter. Some pitied her, others called her names. That's Okagum, the stingy woman from Enugu, one woman whispered. They say she ate all her wedding food by herself. The words hit her like stones. Okagum. That nickname had followed her like a curse. Now, it echoed in her ears, burning her pride to ashes. She turned and ran. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to leave. Her heart pounded painfully as she stumbled down the dusty road, tears blurring her vision. The sound of music and laughter faded behind her until there was only silence. When night came, she found herself sitting by the roadside, alone. Her bag lay beside her, her face streaked with tears and dust. I've lost everything, she whispered to herself. My husband, my money, my dignity. She looked up at the sky, stars faintly glowing through the darkness. God, is this what I deserve? Is this my punishment? Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. She hadn't eaten since morning. The same woman who once hoarded food now had nothing to eat. The irony pierced her like a knife. As she sat there, a small voice broke the silence. Auntie, are you okay? A little girl, about 8 years old, stood in front of her, holding a bag of roasted corn. Aminna forced a smile. I'm fine, my dear. The girl hesitated, then held out one piece of corn. You can have some. My mommy says we should share with people who look sad. The gesture was so small, yet it felt like a lightning bolt through Aminna's heart. Her throat tightened as she stared at the child's innocent face. Thank you, she whispered, accepting it. As she ate the roasted corn slowly, she realized it was the most delicious thing she'd ever tasted. Not because of the flavor, but because it was given freely. She spent the night at a small bus park shelter, unable to sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ibuka's face, his smile, his disappointment, his silence. By morning, she decided to return to Enugu. She had no husband, no savings, no plan, but something in her had changed. The walls she had built around her heart were beginning to crumble. When she got home, the house felt emptier than ever. Dust had gathered on the shelves, and the air smelled stale. She walked into her bedroom and saw the broken floor tile where she used to hide her envelopes of cash. For the first time, she didn't feel the urge to dig or count. She just sat there quietly, thinking. For hours, she stayed that way, until the call came. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Hello. A woman's voice replied, Good morning. Is this Mrs. Aminna Yusuf? Yes, she said slowly. This is from First National Bank, Enugu branch. We are calling about your dormant account. My, what? Your account, ma'am. It was opened by your late father years ago. It has been inactive since 2009, but as part of our reconciliation process, we are reaching out to next of kin to confirm ownership. You still have some funds left in it. Aminna's eyes widened. Funds? How much? Nigeria naira 1.8 million, the voice replied calmly. You'll need to come in with identification to reactivate it. For a moment, she was speechless. After losing everything, here was a second chance, an opportunity to start over. But this time, something inside her whispered, "Don't repeat the past." She took a deep breath and smiled faintly. "Thank you. I'll come tomorrow." As she hung up, she looked around her empty home, the echoes of her old life haunting every corner. Then she said softly, "This time, I'll use it right." But just as she stood to make tea, a loud knock echoed on her door, 3 heavy, urgent knocks. She froze, her heart skipping a beat. Who could it be? The knocks came again, harder this time. "Come. Come. Come." Aminna's heart pounded as she walked toward the door. She wasn't expecting anyone. Slowly, she turned the handle and opened it, just a crack at first. Standing there, drenched in sweat and dust, was Ibuka. For a moment, they both just stared at each other. Neither spoke. The silence between them was heavy, filled with memories, regrets, and words left unsaid. "Ibuka," she finally whispered, her voice trembling. He looked older, thinner, his eyes tired. "Aminna," he said softly. "Can I come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. He entered quietly, glancing around the small sitting room that used to be theirs. Everything looked exactly the same, the neatly folded curtains, the small table fan, the cupboard where she used to keep her envelopes of cash. "I didn't think I'd ever come back here," he said. "I didn't think you would either," she replied, forcing a weak smile. They sat down. The air between them was thick with awkwardness. After a long pause, Ibuka sighed. "I came because my mother passed away last week." Aminna gasped softly. "Oh, Ibuka, I'm so sorry." He nodded. "Thank you. And my marriage with Ngozi didn't work out. She left after 2 months. Said I was still in love with you." Her heart tightened. "In love with me?" He looked at her. "I tried to forget you, Aminna. I really did. But every time I saw something that reminded me of you, your laughter, your stubbornness, even your stinginess, it reminded me of how much I once loved you." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I don't deserve your love," she whispered. "I ruined everything. I made you suffer." He smiled sadly. "Maybe we both made mistakes. But I didn't come here to talk about the past. I came because I heard you changed." She looked down at her hands. "I had to. Life taught me a hard lesson. All my savings got stolen, Ibuka. Everything I buried, gone. And you," she paused, her voice shaking, "you married someone else. That broke me. But it also opened my eyes." He listened silently as she continued. "I realized something," she said, wiping her tears. "Money kept without purpose is just sand. I thought I was protecting myself, but I was only building a cage around my own heart. Now I see, true wealth isn't what you hide. It's what you share." Ibuka's eyes softened. "That's the Aminna I prayed to see." They sat in silence again, but this time it was peaceful. She stood up suddenly. "Wait here." He watched as she went into the kitchen. Moments later, she returned carrying a steaming pot and 2 plates. The rich aroma of jollof rice filled the room. Ibuka blinked. "You cooked?" She smiled shyly. "Yes. And I didn't measure the rice this time." He laughed for the first time in years. "Now I've seen a miracle." They ate together quietly, each bite filling not just their stomachs but the emptiness between them. It was simple, just rice and stew, but to them, it tasted like forgiveness. When they finished eating, Aminna stood up again and went to her bedroom. She returned holding a small blue envelope. "This," she said, handing it to him, "is my new beginning. My father left me some money in a bank account. I just found out about it yesterday. But I'm not keeping it buried or hidden. I'm going to open a small restaurant, one that feeds people who can't afford food. I'll name it Okagom Kitchen." Ibuka smiled warmly. "That name suits you now. It's a reminder of who you were and who you've become." She nodded. "I want to use what I have to make others happy. Even if it's small." For a moment, they just looked at each other, the kind of look that carries years of love, pain, and forgiveness all at once. Then Ibuka said softly, "Can we start again? Maybe not as husband and wife right away, but as friends." Tears glistened in her eyes. "I'd like that." He reached across the table and held her hand. It was warm and soft, not tight like before. For the first time in a long time, Aminna didn't pull away. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, casting golden light into the small room. It touched the empty plates on the table, the pot of rice, and the two people sitting side by side, once broken, now healing. Days turned into weeks. The restaurant opened quietly on a corner street in Enugu. Every morning, children came to eat before school, taxi drivers stopped by for lunch, and old women left with takeaways they didn't pay for. People were shocked. "Okagom. Giving out free food," they'd whisper. But Aminna would only smile and say, "It's not free. It's love." Her story spread across the city. Newspapers wrote about her, calling her the woman who learned to give. Even Ibuka helped at the restaurant, fixing chairs and serving meals. Together, they laughed again, side by side, like they once did. One Sunday evening, after closing time, Ibuka looked at her and said, "You know, you really did finish all your wedding food." She chuckled softly. "Yes, I did. But this time, I'm feeding the world to make up for it." He smiled, his eyes glistening with pride. "Then maybe that's how your story was meant to end." She looked at him, her heart full, and said, "No, Ibuka. It's not the end. It's just the beginning." And for the first time in her life, Aminna, once known as Okagom, the stingy woman, felt truly rich. Because she had finally learned the truth: money fills your purse, but kindness fills your heart.